get started. Thank you all for joining today's webinar, Develop, Test, Deploy Mobile Apps on Demand in the Cloud. I'm Elsa Tong. So Mark, let me change the presenter to you so we can see your slides. Sorry about that.
To share?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good.
See now?
Good. Let me get my presentation up. What was it? I'm sorry, I had it right here, and I lost it when I had to change the. Sorry, these are all my examples, which we'll have a look at in just a minute. Where was it? Let me just open it here. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Hello, my name's Mark Pritchard from CloudBees, and I'm joined with by KD from Zubium, and we're going to give you a little talk and mostly demonstration about the whole way in which you can use the cloud to both develop, deploy, test, and get user feedback for your mobile apps, all done using on-demand cloud resources. So two things here, but one solution. Show you how easy to do this and how closely integrated these things are. So just for those of you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about CloudBees as a whole. I just want to give you a little bit of a picture of the CloudBees Platform as a Service, or PaaS, so you get the overview of what we're doing. So first, Platform as a Service encompasses not just the runtime of deploying apps and running them and managing them in the cloud, but also it's the ability to develop and to manage the whole development life cycle for those applications in the cloud. So you'll be seeing a number of examples where we're using the Jenkins. Jenkins is a very, probably the most widely used open source continuous integration platform. It was started by Kosuke Kawaguchi, who's now my colleague here at CloudBees. He started that back in his days, and is now adopted all over the world. There's a very active community. There are 600 plugins to access all variety of source code control, compilation tools, and so on. And in fact, as you'll see, our integration point with Zubium is that we have a Zubium plugin which we come into Jenkins. So what Jenkins will do is to manage the build and the deployment of the application, and then we'll use the Zubium plugin to push that out to the Zubium service running in the cloud, which will manage the distribution of that to the beta users out live in the field. And then we have, as well as our rich partner ecosystem, we have the ability to deploy sort of server-side apps onto the CloudBees platform. So, for example, where you have that classic pattern of mobile applications that then talk to a server either to update data or to get feeds and so on. All the things, those services can all be running in the cloud on CloudBees. So you don't need any infrastructure, you don't need data centers. You can build your mobile app, you can have this deployed through CloudBees and Zubium out to the mobile platforms, and you can have the back-end services also deployed up to CloudBees. As a developer, you can sign up for CloudBees completely free. There's no charge for this, and you can use our shared multi-tenant resources. So all of what we're going to show you today, you can actually try out and do for yourself. That's just a very brief overview of the CloudBees platform and platform as a service. I would perhaps you to look, if you have time, is I did a blog on this talking about how this fit between continuous integration delivered as a service in the cloud, the whole vision of platform as a service and mobile development goes so neatly together. And that'll explain a little more about some of these ideas and how this fits into the overall picture with platform as a service. We have a whole series of blogs, and the link here point to blog.cloudbees.com. So you have a whole series of blogs there which explain how to do mobile builds using Jenkins in the cloud so that you can use your local development tools. You can use your with ADT for Android. You can also do iOS with Xcode, and then you can also put those up into the cloud. You can use either CloudBees hosted code repositories, or you can use GitHub. You can use a variety of different repositories. If you use local repositories for development, again, you can integrate with those using Jenkins plugins. We all have online some examples of actually how to do this. So if you want to set up your own jobs, go to that URL I'm showing there, the partnerdemo.ci.cloudbees.com, and we'll have that in a minute. If you have a look at the mobile folder, you'll see a whole set of jobs that I've set up with examples of how to do what's in the blogs. So see the demo that we're going to run today. As another example of all the the interesting things that you can do with platform as a service and mobile application development. Once again, I took an example for the Amazon SDK. So Amazon have their Android and iOS SDKs. They have a very interesting concept called a token vending machine. Now, I won't go into it here, but simply the idea here is that if you want your mobile applications to be able to access Amazon resources, so things like S3 buckets, you want access, SQS queuing or notification services, any of Amazon Web Services, obviously, as you know, you have to provide credentials to enable you to access those resources. Now, if your application wants to take advantage of those services, how do you enable people to do that without forcing them to sort of enter access keys and things like that? Well, the token vending machine is what provides the answer to that solution. It uses something called Amazon Secure Token Service, and basically you can have a server application run, and in my example, I show you how to set that up on CloudBees. It's extremely simple, and you can just run it up. You provide your Amazon credentials. You can set up a user with the appropriate restricted permissions, and what the token vending machine will do is enable mobile clients to connect to that server over REST and get a temporary time-limited token which enables them to access services using your credentials, but in a very tightly controlled manner. So it's a very interesting example about how mobile developers are working with platform as a service and the underlying Amazon infrastructure as a service to do really interesting things. If you have a look for that blog, you'll see in the slides we have all the links there, and we also have a set of click starts. So if you sign up for cloudbees.com, I'll show you how to do that just at the end. Very simple, it's all in free, it only takes a few clicks, and once you're signed up, we have these things we call starts, and they basically are a complete project in a box. so that you click on it and we will automatically create for you a source code repository. We'll create a build job that will build and deploy an application. And so the easy way to set up one of these token vending machine examples is just click on the build it button, and within about 30 seconds you will have one of these up and running in the cloud, and you can then follow along. You can use the standard Android and iOS clients from Amazon, and you can actually try this out. One of the great beauties of platform as a service is that it's really easy to start working with technologies, new concepts, without having to do a huge amount of setup and work. So just before I go on to today's session, what I wanted to do was just to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. So this, for example, is the demo.ci.cloudbees.com. You could go to that. This is publicly accessible. You have a read-only access to that. You will see a set of jobs around Cuckoo Chess. I'm going to talk about those in a minute. You go, for example, to the folder. You'll see there a whole series of examples that I've set up to show how you do builds in the cloud, or indeed using a local slave machine. So you can have all the builds configured, stored, run from the cloud. But if you want to have those things so that you can have builds on your local machine, for example, if you have a tethered device that you want to use for, say, running tests and so on, you can do that as well. And in the blogs that I link to, we show examples of how to do that. Again, if you want more details, for example, this is doing an Android build in the cloud, you can simply click down and you can have a look at the configuration. I've got notes about all this in the blog, and you can see exactly how I've configured it. You see, in this case, I'm setting up to build from GitHub, and we use a Android emulator plugin. The CloudBees Jenkins in the cloud service is automatically set up. It will be already set up with the Android SDK platform tools and so on. It will install the appropriate target for you, and then you can run emulator while doing your build, and you can do a sort of standard Android build. This one actually uses the NDK as well, and just do a standard Android build. You can specify which platform target you want to use, and it will then do the build. It will install the app on the emulator. It will run unit tests. You can also set up like Monkey Runner and so on to do all the testing you need to do, and that will automatically happen in the cloud every time you push a change to your source code. But do have a look at the examples. Let me show you a few of the things. We show examples using the Stockfish chess program. This is a very powerful. This is the Droidfish example. Peter Ursuland put this together. You can find all the source code online, and the repository and so on are all linked to from those blogs that I showed as part of the webinar. And for example, we will be working with a slightly simpler version called Cuckoo Chess. I'll show you that in a minute. And then if I come back here, you'll see if you want to run, say, that token vending machine demo, that's what it's going to look like. So it's all fully laid out in the blogs, all the instructions, all the source code are there. So let's go back. Now I've introduced Cuckoo Chess. Let's go back to have a quick look at the at what we're going to do in the demo. Sorry, I'm not having any luck finding my slides today. There we go. So what we've done, Ken and I have put together a little demo which will enable you to actually try this out, and he'll explain exactly how that works in it. But as Cuckoo Chess, simply it's a fully functioning chess game. It's quite good. It's not quite as powerful as Droidfish, For those of you who are familiar with blogs, the reason we chose not to use Droidfish is just because the builds take quite a bit longer. The Droidfish also uses the NDK as the underlying chess engine is written in C, and builds are much quicker with Cuckoo Chess, and that's the reason why we've chosen to do it. What we're going to show you is how a build in the cloud using Jenkins for our Android application. We can have Jenkins automate that build. We're going to set up a pipeline where we're going to do some subsequent tests. We're going to do some validation. I set up a follow-on job which will automatically build versions of Cuckoo Chess for multiple Android targets. Again, doing that in the cloud makes it incredibly easy. You can simply put changes up and these things all happen in a row. Then when we move the build, it will automatically be pushed up into the cloud to the Zubium service. Include support for Zubium. The Zubium SDK is extremely straightforward. I'll show you how that works, and KD will explain a little more about it. And once that's included, when we put that out to our beta testing users, what it is that provides the full support for user feedback, crash reporting, bug tracking, and so on. A whole load of things that we can do. And just before we started, I put up a build, a bug in deliberately, and we'll see how that works. And you'll actually, if you have an Android phone, can you set things up so that you can actually try this out yourself. So this is what I had to do in code just to add support for the SDK. So in the main activity, which in this application is Cuckoo Chess, all I have to do is we just do the import statement for the Zubium SDK, and then on the Zubium console in a minute, we have an application key. So I just get that and I drop that here into the code. And then I just have to basically initialize the Zubium SDK here with that app key. That's it. At that point, I'm done. I do have to make sure that we have the appropriate permissions in the Android manifest.xml. This one is required. This one is useful for much deeper levels of diagnostic. And again, KD can explain all the things that will happen there in just a minute. So when we the application build, you see here I have a sort of a build pipeline. Just to explain it very quickly, which builds the actual Android application, and I set up a pendant job with matrix build, and again, all is explained in much more detail in the blogs that go with the webinar. And for example, I've set this up so that I want to have this build against a variety of older Android platforms, so check that we do have backward compatibility and that we will be able to support older devices and so on. I'll use these kind of matrix builds to support to test with different form factors, different user locales, different languages, and so on. And the beauty is all happening in the cloud. The resources are just allocated on demand. You don't have to set up, a set of machines to do these builds. We'll just do it all for you, and when it's ready, you get the results. And as part of the pipeline, I have a little job where an approver, a QA person, in this case it'll be me with a different user identity, I'll go in and I'll actually approve the build. That will then push it out to the Zubium service. Again, just very simple, drop it into the Jenkins build. So I make sure that we're picking up the correct artifacts. So artifacts are definitely the ones that were approved by me in the QA build, the APK file, and then we put it up to Zubium, and it can then be pushed out to the users. So lots more options around that, but KD will talk about that in much more detail, I think. So let's come out of the presentation now. I can put that down, and let's go to just have a look at what. So you can see here that I just put up my build. This was one where I put in a little bug deliberately and triggered a downstream build using all these different platform types. So what I want to do is going to go in. I'm the QA person and really going to go and approve that build. There we go. It will now go to this gold status. It gets the permission of the QA approval. And if I go down here, you'll see this is automatically kicking off a process which will execute this job here, the CuckooOS Android release. And come down here, you'll see this is where I have my link to Zubium. So if I look at the bottom, you'll see here, we copy the artifacts from the approval process, and we're going to push the build up into the cloud. And we'll see the dashboard in a minute where all that's going to happen. You can see the build happening right now. So if I switch to my console, we're just pulling down the bits, and we're now pushing up to the Zubium service, and it's there ready to work with. Introduction to what we're going to show in the demo. Just so you know what's coming, what I did is we introduced a little bug into the application. So I go into the application, but there's a bug when I go to the menu option and I go to the undo button. That will cause the app to stop. So for this particular instance, I can go to menu. If I go to undo, I actually put in a little bug that causes that application to crash. Okay, so that's a sort of setup for the demo. KD, can I turn this over to you to explain a little bit about the Zubium service and then to show how this works?
Absolutely, Mark.
I'll make you the presenter right now. Go.
Let me share my screen. Awesome. Thanks, Mark, for explaining the process. Mark said, our ecosystem is quite fragmented. So let's just quickly go over what are the different problems and how can you make sure that it works across all different fragments. Usually people say Android beta distribution is extremely simple. Yeah, that's right. But it's very, very simple, but it's completely efficient. Why? Now this is a Mark. He built his CuckooOS application. He usually attaches those to the new build email and send it to different blogs, users, or forums. This is invite and involve users. Second, most users are non-technical, so you have to help them with the installation. Then asking what's their feedback, because know what they are thinking about your application. Then you need to understand what are the crashes those users are experiencing and get more about their feedback after specific interval. This process again and again. Usually, although you will use emulators as well as devices, get us feedback is really, really important. Right. How? It's just process with Zubium. Now already built the application. Already using Junkie plugin. He uploaded it to the Zubium platform. Now I'm gonna play the role of Mark's QA team, and I will involve all the users, in the testing of this CuckooOS application. Switch back to our dashboard and let's quickly see how Mark build is doing. I've just uploaded Cuckoo Chess version number 66 and 1.5, 1.05 version. Did so far, I have created a group of one, including guys, in there, and I want to make sure that this build is distributed to you guys, so that you guys can help us in understanding the problems. So it's very simple. The distribution is very simple with Zubium. So I'm gonna select the build. So integrated Zubium SDK. So I just go here and say invite users. Now I can write totally custom invitation email, and user will get exclusive to download the application with notes whoever he have marks specified. Select the webinar group and we'll send. So what form will does in meantime, it creates a unique exclusive link to all the users and invite them via email. Platform side, you can track who is downloading, where exactly user is downloading, essentially keep a track of all user activities. Always problem, we usually send beta builds to users and we have to find out, hey, what's your feedback? We have to keep poking users as after 3-4 days. With Zoo do that. On the side, you can just set a reminder, let's say 48 hours, and everyone who is downloading the application will looking for the feedback, their feedback on the application, and will be given a very simple, mobile-friendly feedback form where they can put their thoughts or whatever they want to share about your application. So just keep it so that skip it for now. And now, as a developer, my job is very simple. I can just go here and click and check status for people whom I involved, and as soon as they will start downloading, you will see this increment, this in the account. For now, I have already, so until you guys install it, I'll just go and show you the sample application. I have a sample application which we already, it's a Jetboy game. So I have invited close to 100 users, out of which 30 to 40 have already downloaded the application. I can track the exceptions occurring on their phone. So, okay, there is something we have called as application health. So at any given point of time, rather than wondering how your application is doing, platform tells you in real time how's the health of your application. Is it good, bad, or is the criticality of any problem? So let's say there is a crash, there is an exception which is close to 150 to users, and let's go and check it out what exactly it's creating, why it, and which form factors it is having problems. So like it is crashing in of 2.3.4 to 2.3.7. So looks like there is something or some backward compatibility things we are missing on. So let's check out with the network operator. Oh, so it's now that on 2.3 probably it's occurring on Verizon phone, Verizon network, and by the way it's on a Droid X. Oh, so now as a developer I know at a point level that this particular problem is occurring on Verizon phone Droid X with Android OS version something from 2.3.3. So you can click on any particular crash and go and check out the details. with one integration, and your users to communicate back to you with their feedbacks. The big advantage of that is users no longer complain and say this application sucks and give you bad rating. Essentially, they will just come back and express their thoughts via this in-app support desk. Now, some like layman is saying unable to turn on the app. So looks like you know that rather than your support going back, usually what happens, let's say you're facing problem, more time he just uninstalls, or he just sends an email saying I am facing this X problem. Now your support team goes and asks the user which phone he is having. Then if the user knows the details of the system, he comes and it's a like never-ending loop. So with that support desk, developers can enable in their application, and user will just say send details. Not the user facing problem on HTC phone with Horizon stuff. So it looks like there is a common problem, and again SDK is 2.3.4. So now your development team knows what exactly the problem at a very granular level. So about feedback and exceptions, which it works in the beta distribution as well as your life cycle. So there are gaming companies who actually who usually face problems with all other stuff. So we try to have something called as a kill switch. Let's say I push version 20, and I will just say go and close this build. Now when I can send an update message to all the users using this application, and if I want to close this beta build, now I have the ability to redirect user after the beta to either Android market or Amazon market. Or similarly, if you have a paid application, you can force these users to update. You can make sure that this user is really going to the next version. So you're ultimately with the switch controlling the unwanted distribution of your application. So let's get back to our original application. Where like already 10 of you downloaded application. Now let's look at the crash you guys are experiencing. So looks like everyone who downloaded probably faced this crash. Let's go and check it out. What exactly the problem? So all users who are using this application are on 4.02. They are experiencing crash at it looks like an option selected in slide number 233. Then probably network operator, probably someone Vodafone, Orange. Then SDK they are using HTC Sensation. Now again I can go back at low and check it out the very level what exactly the problem is happening. So Zoom is not just for betas, not just for production. It's entire life cycle. So some of the things developers come back and talk to us. Usually, how can we build quality apps? So Mark demonstrated is whole theme of this content is develop, test, and deploy. Because consider, let's say, Android ecosystem is pretty fragmented, and or building, you have only one chance to put your application in the market, and your users will have close to 10 seconds to make your make impression on them. So to make sure that everything is really good, performing well. So our approach with this stuff is build often. I'll just skip this. So don't be afraid, test it. Let's make apps stable. So one thing Mark was sharing, like, don't just build, push it to market, share these notes with the user, involve real people in your testing. Don't be afraid. Don't let them, they love your app. So usually your users are really helpful. If you ask them, or the who are complaining saying this application doesn't work, or this application is giving, or this particular feature is giving you problem, ask them what is the problem and involve these users in your next build, so that these users will feel again happy that you fixed particular problem. And as a responsive developer, they will stick to your application, and and over a period of time you will find really expert users who knows your application, and who are ready to give you the feedback, do it again and again. So we feel that something like build, deploy, and test methodology, it's always useful for developers to build application at production as well as after the post-production. So with the CloudBees is already offering really rich offering with you can test your application, build it almost like weekly, daily, or at many other different processes, as well as with different emulator setups. And with the partnership, you can involve real users. You can involve real users to participate in your beta, and those users could be anyone. Since let's say usually people ask, oh, we don't have users. So with Zubium, you can share. We allow a very simple public page for guys, so that you can involve or recruit users on the fly to participate in your application. So Zubium is a platform for your entire life cycle to make application better. And integration is fairly simple, as Mark mentioned. And I think looks like a lot of people are downloading. You can track pretty much every level at granular level and find it out what exactly happening at the application level. I pretty much covered it. Let me pass control to Mark to add some of the things.
Waiting for Katie to transfer the transfer over to Mark. If you have any questions, please feel free to input questions into the QA section of the WebEx.
Well, thanks very much, Katie. That was fantastic. And I'm so glad people are trying that out. If you're happy subscribed, I'll push up a new build later with a better version of the bug.
Yeah.
So can I just show you how you would, if you want to try this out yourself? So I'll just show you. It's really easy, for example, to set up a CloudBees account. So just go to cloudbees.com. If you go to the sign up page there, again, it's entirely free. We don't ask for credit cards or anything like that. You use shared resources in the cloud, just in your email, company, if you want, your first last name, just so we know how to address you, and put in a password. Be doing these builds in the cloud, and you're actually deploying applications live in the cloud. We need to know what domain name to use. You saw when I do things here, we have this partnerdemo.ci.cloudbees.com. That partner demo is an example of a domain name. So pick one that is, you know, your memorable name, and this would be for the slowed repositories. This will be the domain where the apps are deployed. Typically, people have those the same thing. You get a very simple arithmetic test, click Create Account, and you're good to go. You'll be taken through to the host here. Just log on. Into CloudBees. This is where you have access to the source code repositories, This is where your applications will be deployed. This is where you can run databases, MySQL databases, and so on. And these are the sort of Jenkins build jobs, including the ones we were just looking at there. But the easiest way to get started if you're new to the PaaS platform is simply to come in, go to Click Start, and this is where you'll see all these different sort of projects in a box. So there are two that I mentioned, the token vending machine. But again, if you want just to, set up an application really quickly, let's say you want to get into Play or Scala or something like that, or you want to, try something new, just click on one of those buttons. For example, I can just click on this one and take me through to a thing like this, and I can put in something like, my pay, and I click the button and it'll go away and it'll create all the pieces for you. And after, 30 seconds to a minute or whatever, you actually have that application up and running. You'll have the source code in a repository that you can just clone, a Git repository you can clone locally, and you're up and running. So to try those out, please sign up, have a look. If you want to try any of these mobile build scenarios, go to partnerdemo.ci.cloudbees.com. That'll show you exactly how you need to set it up. And just look at the cookie chess example. And don't worry if you don't want to set up all the pipelines. Just look at the Android release. If you just did a simple build, all you have to do is right at the bottom, post-build actions, just add a post-build action, and one of the things in there will include upload to Zubium. So you just sign up for the, let me just close the dialog, that application is all now up and running. You just sign up for an account with Zubium. You can then link that account. You can log on application. It's very simple. It's just a few steps, and it'll give you a secret key for that app, which you can pop there. And then your Jenkins build, you simply point to the directory of your Android project where the app is built, to the APK, and basically you're good to go. There are a whole series of different things you can do if you want to control which user groups it goes to and so on. Again, that's all discussed in the documentation that's online at the Zubium site. So extremely easy to do, and just remember to follow those simple instructions to integrate the Zubium SDK into your project. Cap on those, all it involves is you have to make sure in your libs directory you have the Zubium SDK.jar. Again, download that from the Zubium site when you log on. And in your Android manifest, you need to have the internet permission, and it's going to give you better information if you enable the access network state as well. In the main activity for your project, in here you'll have an import statement up at the top, and then you simply use the Zubium SDK. So what is, you have the import statement there, and you just have those lines there. You just add in basically your Zubium app key, and in your create method, you just initialize the Zubium SDK. It's as laid down in the slide. And you can see down here, actually, my logcat window, when I was running the application, you can see that it's initialized and configured, and you see there we're picking up the device 0, the delete error that we introduced when you the undo button. So I think we've got a few minutes. Just any questions?
Yes. So there were some questions that came in. Question came in from Kirk. The question is, what about iOS apps? This makes total sense for Android.
Yeah, just to explain, from you can do OS builds with CloudBees. Essentially, what we do is can connect up a Mac OS slave environment. Would be your laptop if you're just developing. I have a blog that shows you how to do it. It's very easy. Or you can use a hosted Mac in the cloud service, something like xCloud. Again, we've written up how to do all this, and I'll do a blog very shortly about that with something like xCloud. So check out blog.cloudbeast.com or just ping me mpritchard@cloudbeast.com, and I'd be very happy to talk much about that. And we do have examples of how to hook up the Macs here. The mobile folder. You'll, for example, builds where you have how to do a build with both Android using a slave, and here are the iOS builds where I'm building, the first is building an app, the second building an IPA archive. So just go partnerdemo.ci.cloudbeast.com. You do that without having to sign up or anything. Just go into the mobile folder, take a look at this, and you'll see a detailed explanation of what you have to do, and you'll also go in and see the configuration. It uses the Jenkins Xcode plugin.
Yep. Just to add Mark stuff, I mean, now Zubium supports Android, but iOS support, iOS as well as Windows support is shortly coming. So we may be doing one more webinar to demonstrate probably for iOS application.
Certainly will. That'll be great. I'm looking forward to it myself.
Yep.
So the question from Jay: in order to do a build in Xcode, is it required to use a locally hosted slave?
You can use a locally hosted slave. You could use a slave that's hosted in the cloud. So that's the example. And in fact, Sasha Ray, our founder, was in that. We were talking about it just before we came onto the webinar, and he's been doing that very successfully using the service from xCloud. So in that case, everything is happening in the cloud. Again, I'm going to do a write-up, a blog, just to explain exactly how to do that and take you through all the setup steps.
All right. The next question is for KD, and it's from Pramnath. Is Zubium service free, or does it come with a cost?
Sure. So we do have free plans as well as plans. It's a monthly subscription basis, depending on at what stage of you want to use Zubium. You can use Zubium free plans for beta, or you can use for entire life cycle, which is for distributing betas before your application release, and use crash reporting in app support desk. Your application is released in the App Store or market, and the price is very simple. Depending on number of downloads you are getting, as well as number of crashes you are hitting, the prices do vary. Those we ultimately believe that your success gonna be Zubium's success. And feel free to contact us if you have any other suggestions in these regards. And we are fairly small team with just like focused developers from popular companies coming together and build this platform to solve their own problems and available to all others who are in a similar shoes.
Okay, so that's all the questions that we have for today. So thank you, Mark and KD, for your time. We did record the presentation today, and later on today I will send out the link to the recording as well as the slides as soon as the link becomes available.
And just in case anyone, we presented an awful lot of material. Just in case anyone was confused on anything, I will do a detailed blog going through the various points that we discussed, and we'll send out a link to that.
Awesome. Oh, Mark, so I had another question that just came in from Karen. How do you deal with signing of release apps on your service?
So we would do this through the, if you want to sign this, in short term, the easiest way to do that is to actually do the signing process using a local slave environment where you have the appropriate keys. And I mean, if we're talking about Android or keychains and so on, if we're talking about iOS. So, for example, this is something that comes up where you have iOS builds and you need to sign it with an appropriate provisioning profile. Something where the easiest thing to do is to simply have the appropriate slave environment set up, which will have the appropriate provisioning profiles and so on installed. And then you can execute that build, which might be the final build in a sort of process. That one be executed there, which is your dedicated signing machine.
Great. I think that's it. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hope everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.